Hi, this is Joanne with Creative Writing Study Group, and I am here today with Amanda White. Amanda White is the administrator for the Daily Haiku Facebook page. She has a collection of poetry called Stepping on the Cracks and appearing soon. What drew me to you, Amanda, was that she has done, I should mention, she has done so much other things in the publishing industry, in theater, in script writing, and in children's books. But Amanda, what drew me to you was that you had mentioned the benefits of poetry, and I'm hoping we can discuss that at some point today. But I thought I'd start out by asking you, how did you get involved in poetry?
I started writing poetry when I was really little. And I think when I think about it, it was because I was an only child. So I had a lot of time living in my head, playing lots of imaginary games, reading lots of books like Alice in Wonderland. And I started writing and doing little drawings. And my mum would call me to dinner, and often she'd have to call me lots of times because I'd be stuck on the landing, caught up in some kind of crazy little story or poem or drawing, and I just loved it. I think it was a bit of an escape. Maybe it was a bit like having a sibling, which I didn't have. So I used to do a lot of writing. And then when I got to school, I had some really good English teachers. So the typical thing that I was inspired by some of the teachers that I met. And then when I sort of got into my teens, I also found writing really helpful because, you know, it's a difficult time, and I kept a diary and I used to keep just doing little writing. And then I started sending stuff out to get published. So I started getting things published when I was quite young. And then I just started slowly but slowly sending little bits of poetry out to different magazines, my local paper, and I started joining a writers group, which was really good for my confidence. So I did quite a lot of performing, and I really enjoyed that, meeting other poets.
I apologize, but you said you did performing in a writers group?
Yeah. I used to do quite a lot of performing of my poetry when I was younger. So I joined a group in Sussex. So we would do performances. And then when I lived in London, I used to do quite a lot of performances.
So when you say performances, I'm sorry, maybe it's an American thing or just me being stupid. When you say performances, you just went on stage and you spoke to the crowd, or was it like, okay, I was wondering if it was a kind of physical acting other than speaking, but okay. That's interesting.
No, it's not so much acting, but I guess there's an acting element. So sometimes if you're doing it with other people, it helps if in a way you become another person, because sometimes when I've been to readings, maybe we could refer to it more as readings, sometimes writers are really great, but sometimes you go to a reading and then they're like, you can hardly hear them, and it's just, so it's almost like a whole nother thing to be able to read your work and maybe be happy with people asking questions or getting involved. And I guess I really quite enjoyed that as well. So it's something that's
interesting if they had that here. I don't think they have that anymore. I always saw that in like 60s films where they go to these. I don't see them anymore. That's a shame. I would go.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's a bit like I suppose it's a bit like a jazz club, but for poetry, right?
Yeah, I know.
We have a lot of that here. So
they have speakeasies here where they're hidden. I only just learned about this, hidden rooms in some of the restaurants, and that would be a great place to do something like that. That would be fun. I would spend the evening that way. I'd like that more than music.
Sounds cool,
to be frank.
Especially if you were having like some amazing gin and tonic while you were listening to poetry in a speakeasy room. It sounds like a cool idea, doesn't it?
It does.
Maybe we should set one up. We should set one up.
Set one up. I'm thinking about it, but we're stuck in quarantine at the moment. But I'm gonna keep that in the back of my head. That would be really interesting.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I'm sorry. So you continued on with your poetry, and how did you develop it over the years?
Okay, so I did quite a lot of traveling after I'd done what we call over here our A levels. I took some time out before I went to university. I didn't just rush off to study English, which is what I did eventually study. But when I was a bit younger, I thought, well, I want to do some writing right now while I'm really young. So I did a lot of traveling and tried lots of different sort of crazy jobs, and that was really good for me before I then went back into academia and did lots of studying of other writers. I wanted to make sure that before I started studying other people, I'd really started to try and find my own way with my work, so that it wasn't just copying other people, if you know what I mean. So even though I'm a big fan of, you know, people like Seamus Heaney and T.S. Eliot and Dylan Thomas, I wanted to be able to sort of start writing things that might have been influenced by them, but not just become somebody else's work.
Right.
And then when I went to uni, I did English, but I also studied film and I also studied philosophy. And I kept writing and getting a few things published. And then when I left university, I knew that I wanted to still write, but it's quite hard to just suddenly make money from writing. So I had to find another kind of job. So that's when I went into publishing, so that I could work part-time in publishing, doing a bit of editing and looking after other clients, and do my writing and performing my work and stuff. So that's what I did for quite a long time in London. And then eventually, having been published in different magazines and other anthologies, I got my own collection, which was really like a big thing. Really, it was a big moment for me to sort of suddenly have my own complete book, and that was exciting.
Find for writers, their best bet is to try publishing in other publications like magazines, or just a small piece. This goes for just writing fiction, or in your case, poetry in general. And then they can work up to a book where that can be traditionally published if you wanted to go down that route. I think in our group, you have a mix of people who want to traditionally and self. But the best way to take the traditional route, as I understand it, is you start, getting published by, like you said, magazines, or today it's the internet. Or putting it into writing contests.
I think now it's probably much more exciting for any writer really than when I was younger, because obviously it was more just traditional. You had to post things off, wait for months to get a reply back, and it was a traditional magazine that would come, or a book, or it was a much slower process. And now, of course, you've got the internet, you've got YouTube, and
but that also brings a lot more competition, which is the downside of it.
I guess so. Well, maybe, but then at least there's more accessibility. And so for me, I feel that poetry should be something that everyone can do, not just a few people where it's like a little private club. I love it that it's open to everybody. So
I agree. Yeah. I think what I mean by a lot more competition is this is not something you can easily make a career out of anymore. Because it's so, I think this goes for photography too. The digital age has taken out a lot of artistic revenue, which is somewhat of a shame. But on the other hand, it will bring us writers that probably never would have had a chance, because you had to get through that firewall of agents and publishers who decide whether you pass or not. So
and I was an agent for a while, so I was on that other side as well as being on the other side. I worked as a literary agent, so I know how that feels. It's really, really hard. Some publishers wouldn't even look at something unless it had come from an agency and it had that rubber stamp of someone saying, we rate this person. And then even to rate that person, they had to jump through all those little hoops where, what had you had published? which magazines have you been in? Or if it was a journalist, you know, what have you written? So that you've got kind of some proof or some cultural capital to take then to the publisher. So I think now it's a bit more fluid, where somebody could set up a channel on YouTube or get lots of things published. And if they've got a support network, then a publisher might suddenly notice them and say, oh, I think this person's really interesting. Maybe we should publish them.
That's true.
So that's good. Yeah. I mean, I think if you've got a market, that's what the publishers care about. If they can see that you've got people that want to read your work or listen to you or listen to your music or look at your photographs, then they're suddenly going, oh, okay, well, maybe we do as well. And we know that we've already got a load of people that we can sell this.
But again, that to me goes back to it does, you almost have to have money in order to set yourself up.
Yeah.
Before you can truly make money. And that it to me is one of the frustrating parts of publishing in general.
Yeah, and there's very little social mobility in that, isn't it? So and that is a real worry.
Yeah.
Because obviously you want inclusivity, and you want as many voices heard as possible. So I think in a way, maybe the internet for that, even though you know, you have to sort through stuff. There's a lot of stuff, and some of it is, you know, maybe not that great. But if you can sort through the stuff, there maybe are some amazing things, because the accessibility for people everywhere now, most people can get on the internet and actually do something. And so, you know, in the last 15 years, I've done lots of teaching where I'm getting other people to write, or I'm going into schools or healthcare settings. And so for me, it's more of a, you know, I think writing is amazing and it's been fantastic for me, but I want to spread the love, you know, I want everyone to get involved.
Which
so
brings me, that's a great segue into why I was interested in speaking to you, is that I think it was your LinkedIn page, I wish I had it in front of me, is how you described how writing poetry has helped us people mentally. And I was hoping you can expand on that. And because I was really impressed how I'll look for it as you let me know. But that was, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, I understand, because I'm a big person who believes in free writing, that Natalie Goldberg and Julie Cameron support, where you just write free. And that has helped me a great deal. I am curious about poetry, how that works, because I think you said something about improves mental clarity, and that would be curious, especially for those who are getting up in age and want to make sure we don't lose our minds.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, well, about 18 years ago, a friend of mine who runs a care home. So I don't know if that's the same phrase in America, but care homes are where older people go when they're maybe a bit older and not very well. And she runs a care home, and she'd been asked by an organisation called Arts for Health, Cornwall, where I live in the UK, to find practitioners, artists and writers who weren't healthcare people, to get involved in projects where they would help deliver activities for people who were older or people with dementia. And so my friend said to me, Amanda, this sounds like you. And I was like, well, I've never done this. And she said, that's what they want. They don't want anyone who's got lots of medical ideas or things that they know. They just want creative people to come with fresh ideas. So I got involved, and I came up with a sort of program for a care home near where I live, by doing workshops in the care home and finding out what worked for some people, even people who maybe had lost the art of speech. It was doing lots of things with sensory things, cutting out words and letting people choose words, putting things together, really, really crazy stuff that was really exciting. And from that practice, over the years, I've done more and more projects with all sorts of groups, whether it's mental health groups, particularly with teenagers, or homeless people. I've just done a project with people who were homeless, and I worked with 4 other writers, and we got the people experiencing homelessness and the people working for the charity to write poems through a series of workshops that I've developed over the years, and other practitioners have developed their ideas. And then we put a book together, which was sold to raise money for the charity.
What was the book called?
It's called,
still published.
Yeah. It was published by the charity. It's called Stones in Our Hands, published by St. Petrox. I can send you some links.
Okay, that'd be
I think
good.
it's probably on my blog, but
I'll try to put a picture up when I edit this. Okay.
Yeah. So I've done lots of projects like that in schools as well, where I'm working with kids, and particularly kids maybe who've been told that they're not very good at writing, or they struggle with it. Often those are the kids that I find are the most imaginative, because if you can come at the writing from a completely different place. So my big technique really when I'm doing those workshops is I ask lots of questions. So people don't really even know that they're doing writing. So I'll ask them things like, right, think of an abstract word. So, okay, maybe it's love. And I'll say to that person, so what does that smell like? And then they come up with a thing. Oh, and what does it taste like? And if it was an animal, what would it be? And where's it going? And then before they know it, we've got this kind of narrative going on. And then at the end of it all their stuff they've collected, I'll say, well, let's choose a few favorite pieces and we'll turn it into a short poem or a short story. And then you say to that person, you've just written a poem. And they're like, really? It's like, well, yeah, I just thought and they'll say, well, I thought we were just having fun. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. So it's a bit of a trick, maybe.
You can't tell me you don't get any pushback when you say, what does love smell like? Nobody goes, smell like anything, especially with kids.
Well, or you get people, obviously the interesting thing with all abstract words, whether it's love or pain or anger or happiness, is that we all see these things completely differendly.
Really?
But the good thing is that, obviously if you
I think
ask somebody
flowers,
to write
the smell.
Oh, well, that's good.
For when you said it, that was the first thing that popped in my head. But okay.
You see, the thing about it is, if I asked somebody to write a poem about love, they're more likely to go for the cliches than if I start asking them about what they think. Like if I say, what does it really smell like or taste like to you? And they start to draw on their own experiences. And then I go, well, okay, you tell me it tastes like a glass of red wine. What sort of wine? What does it look like?
Mm-hmm.
And we get into a whole, and it's at the same time I'm getting to know that person and what
I could see that. Okay, because I'm thinking, what flower? And then I was thinking, what is flower? I was thinking hyacinth. And why hyacinth?
Ooh.
Because they make me so happy when I smell them. They're in my house right now. And I was like, spring is here. Warmth is coming. So anyway, that's interesting. So you go a little bit deeper, ask more questions. Okay.
Yeah, lots of questions. So I do a whole sequence of workshops. I've got about 300, but they all have a common denominator, which is the senses, really. So I'm really getting people to really dig deep without being stressed about something. And often through talking about...
interesting. Okay.
Even if you're talking about something quite painful, if I say, well, let's write a monologue from the point of view of an orange, for example, or the point of view of a pen, someone will start going, oh, well, this pen is feeling sad because it hasn't been used for a long time. And somehow there'll be something in that person's kind of their current psyche that comes through into the metaphor of why that pen is sad. Whereas someone else will say, oh, my pen's been so busy. It's such a busy little pen. It's like...
It's almost out of ink. It sounds as if they use inanimate objects or other things to have a safe space to describe how they're feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it was particularly useful for example, working with the people experiencing homelessness. Obviously, there's a lot of pain under the surface. And when I did the workshops there wasn't at any point where I asked them directly, tell me about what it's like to be homeless. We would always talk about things like, we might have been doing a whole session on walking in the countryside. But in that walk, something would come out where they might say something like, oh, and I didn't like it because I saw this this fox and it reminded me of a time. And then suddenly a little story comes out and we can pause and we can take, do you want to talk about that a bit more? And then suddenly there's a kind of safe way to share something with someone else who says, oh, I know how that feeling is. And but they're talking about the story, so it's okay because it's not too directly on the spot personal.
Right. Oh, that's really interesting. I really like that. So I'm curious if because it sounds like a lot of what you did was walk them through it. How
and you
would
stand up and you stand
right?
back.
But
you're there as a kind of total facilitator, and also to make sure if it's a group setting that nobody dominates, that there's a kind of, okay, let's share, and also in a way you're almost there to sort of just you're kind of picking up on things that people might want to share, or if they're upset, because often that's quite a complex element of working with Arts for Health work. People can get upset, but of course from a writing point of view, getting upset is often really good, because that's when the good stuff comes out. It's just
dig deep.
I mean, it's like, do the work.
Hemingway say, I sit at the typewriter and bleed.
That's
writing simple. I sit at the typewriter and bleed. That's what
and often it's the more interesting stuff, right? So really it's those things where we've suffered or felt something so deeply that you want to get those expressions out, because those are the things that make us connect to other people. I mean, the worst thing is when someone says to you, oh, how's your life? Oh, it's amazing. I've been doing this and this and that. And then you can just see the other person go, okay, that's good for you. So I think it's a good way to be.
So how would an individual who could not take your workshop get started? Would that book, Stones in Our Hands, help them to walk through it themselves?
No, because Stones in Our Hands isn't it's like a poetry book, so it's only the finished product of what the workshops produced. So it's
okay.
But I work with a charity called Artswell, and they have lots and lots of workshops and ideas that help people do those things. And I myself have workshops that I share when I give, whether it's at a festival or whether it's online. So the haiku, the daily haiku, here's the segue into the daily haiku, which I set up when we all went into lockdown. That came directly from me having never done any social media. I won't say I hated it, but I was not a fan. And we go into lockdown and I'm thinking, wow, I think it's a good thing for people to do something creative. I know poetry is brilliant. I know photography works, artwork, all of those things. And I thought, well, one of my most popular workshops is, are you a tree or a leaf? Which is, I know.
I think.
Which
even when I'm working said,
with someone who says,
am I the vine, or I am the vine, you are the branches? Or no, wait, I forget it. Is that right? Yes, I am the vine, you are the branches. Isn't that what the Bible says? That's getting religious. My apologies.
That's the option. That's okay, but that's the option I give people. Are you a tree or a leaf?
You're at least giving them an option.
And you see, even someone who doesn't normally engage with creative stuff, they all feel compelled to answer. And what I've been interested in is even working with sort of older people who are quite traditional. They'll suddenly say, I'm an oak tree. and I
Oh.
know where I am, and I stand in this field and I look out to sea, and you get this whole thing. And then I ask loads more questions. Where are you? What are you doing? What are you frightened of? And anyway, it all goes into a whole thing. And at the end of that exercise, they turn those responses into a haiku. And people love it because it's a little puzzle. So I thought, when we
Out of all the
into
poetry, I
lockdown,
like haiku the most, by the way.
yeah, because
Yeah.
it's short and it's
Yeah.
condensed. It might come
Yeah.
from lots of stuff, but it's a bit like a Sudoku, yeah? You know, that
Yes.
puzzle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's achievable. There's a format, whereas a lot of poetry can be quite scary because
Yeah.
it's a bit too free and
Yeah.
it's not very, it can be a bit difficult.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, everyone loves that workshop. That's what I'm going to do on the internet for lockdown. I'm going to set up the daily haiku. We're going to have a theme every day, and let's see what happens. So that was 6 weeks ago. We've got 1,400 members. They're all very active.
I am one of them.
And
I haven't done
amazing.
a haiku yet. I should, but I haven't yet.
You must.
Yeah.
Just ask yourself those questions like, what does it smell like? What does it look like? That's the way in. It's a good way in. So like today our theme is home.
Okay.
And it's just been so evocative. So we're getting all sorts of, things from obviously people feeling like home is with someone else or the place you're at. But we've also had one from one of our members who was writing about jazz, saying, take it home. So his haiku is all about how, Robbie Coltrane and how you get to home in a song. And it's just fantastic. And then all these little conversations spark up between members, sometimes about haiku, and it's all very, what is a haiku? Should it be really rigid? Let's do a senrui instead. All of this. But then on the other hand, it's really accessible to people who've never written before. So that's what I wanted to do.
Well, thank you very much, Amanda. I hope we get to talk again because you, like I said, have a very long CV. You have a lot of experience in the publishing industry. But I did really find that there's a lot of people in our group that talk poetry, and so I am not strong in poetry. The best I'll do is some haiku because like you said, they're fun. They have a structure to them, and I am good with structure. And so thank you for doing this.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Lovely to meet you.
You too.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed this interview like I did with Amanda White. Please support this channel and interviews like this by liking, sharing the love, and subscribing. Don't forget to hit the bell button next to the subscribe button if you want to get notified of upcoming videos. Next week's interview, Hannibal Hills, a voice actor for Audible Books.